Chapter 1. The shattered glass. The wine glass exploded against the marble floor 3 feet from where I stood, and I watched the Barolo spread across white tile like arterial blood. Clean it up. Marcus didn't look at me when he said it. He never did anymore. My hands were already full to plates balanced on my left arm, a third in my right hand, all destined for table 7 where the couple had been waiting 20 minutes. But Marcus was my manager, and Marcus had been drinking since the lunch shift ended. And Marcus had recently decided that humiliation was an acceptable management technique. I set the plates on the nearest service station and grabbed the cleaning kit from beneath the bar. Trattoria Luminosa was the kind of restaurant where senators brought their mistresses and CEOs. Closed deals over osso buco. Chandeliers cast everything in warm amber. The walls were papered in cream silk. Even the bathroom doors were carved mahogany, heavy enough to muffle secrets. I'd worked here 11 months, long enough to become invisible. Faster, Lara. Marcus's voice cut through the murmur of 50 conversations. Several diners glanced over. My cheeks burned. I knelt, sweeping glass into the dustpan. A shard caught my thumb. Blood welled, a perfect bead of red that matched the wine. You're pathetic. Marcus leaned against the bar, arms crossed. His breath would smell like bourbon and the mints he sucked to hide it. You know that? Your sister would have had this done already. My sister. Always? My sister. Naomi had worked here first, 3 years ago. Naomi, with her bright laugh and easy confidence, who quit to manage a gallery in Paris. Naomi, who everyone still asked about. Naomi, whose shadow I'd been living in since I was 7 years old. I stood, dustpan full of glittering wreckage, and headed toward the kitchen. Marcus's hand locked around my wrist. Where do you think you're going? His fingers pressed into the tendons. Not hard enough to bruise. Marcus was careful about that, but hard enough to send a clear message. The kitchen noise faded. The dining room conversations dimmed. All I could hear was my pulse and his breathing. The trash is in the kitchen, I said quietly. Are you talking back to me? No, what? I swallowed. No, sir. His smile was ugly. That's better. You know what? I think we need to have a conversation about your attitude. Bathroom, now. My stomach dropped. The women's bathroom at Luminosa was at the end of a short hallway, past the kitchen entrance. Marcus had pulled this before, cornering servers in private spaces, making them cry, then sending them back to work with ruined makeup and shaking hands. He called it performance reviews. I'd watched him do it to Anita months ago. She'd quit the next day. Marcus, I have tables now. He didn't let go of my wrist. He pulled me toward the hallway, past the kitchen where line cooks pretended not to notice, past the wine cellar door, toward that mahogany door at the end. My heartbeat was a drum. My throat was dry. You should fight back, I thought. You should scream. You should, but I didn't. Because I needed this job. Because my landlord had already given me one warning about late rent. Because fighting back required a kind of courage I'd never possessed. The hallway was empty except for us, and then it wasn't. A man stepped out of the wine cellar. I noticed his shoes first, black leather, Italian, polished to a mirror shine. Then the suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, the kind that cost more than my monthly salary. Then his hands, broad and scarred across the knuckles. Then his face, dark eyes, sharp jaw, a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. He was perhaps 35, tall enough that Marcus would have to look up to meet his gaze. There was something about him that made the air feel thinner, heavier, like standing too close to a fire or a cliff edge. Marcus's grip on my wrist loosened. Mr. Kane. My manager's voice had lost its edge. I didn't realize you were still here. The man. Kane looked at Marcus, then at Marcus's hand on my wrist, then at my face. His expression didn't change, but something in the hallway did. The temperature, maybe, or the way sound seemed to stop traveling. You're hurting her. His voice was low, quiet, the kind of quiet that made you lean closer even though every instinct screamed to run. Just a staff issue, Marcus said quickly. Nothing to worry about. Kane's eyes stayed on me. Is that true? I should have said yes, should have smiled and nodded and diffused whatever this was. But my thumb was still bleeding, and Marcus's breath still smelled like bourbon. And this stranger's dark eyes held something I couldn't name, something dangerous and certain and utterly unreadable. He was taking me to the bathroom, I heard myself say. To talk. 3 seconds of silence. Then Kane moved, not fast, not aggressive. He simply stepped forward, and Marcus stepped back, releasing my wrist like it had burned him. The bathroom conversation is cancelled, Kane said. Go back to work. He wasn't talking to me. Marcus's face went red, then white. Sir, with all respect, go. Marcus went. I stood there, dustpan still in my hands, blood drying on my thumb, staring at a man who had just rewritten the power structure of my entire world with 2 words. Kane reached into his jacket and pulled out a white handkerchief. He held it out. For your hand. I took it automatically. The fabric was silk, monogrammed. Vicky, thank you, I whispered. He nodded once, then turned back toward the wine cellar. Mr. Kane? The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Why did you? He paused. Didn't turn around, because no one else would. Then he was gone, the cellar door closing with a soft click. And I was alone in the hallway with a silk handkerchief, and the sudden, unshakable certainty that my life had just become infinitely more complicated. Chapter 2. The Velvet Troppy made it through the rest of my shift on autopilot. Table 7 got their food 40 minutes late. The couple at table 12 asked for me specifically to complain about the temperature of their soup. Someone's credit card was declined, and I had to have that conversation. The apologetic smile, the lowered voice, the careful dance of preserving dignity while the kitchen staff watched through the service window. Marcus didn't look at me once. He stayed behind the bar, pouring drinks with mechanical precision, his jaw tight enough to crack teeth. Every time I passed him to pick up orders, the air between us vibrated with something ugly and unfinished. You made me look weak, his silence said. You'll pay for that. But he didn't say it out loud, didn't pull me aside, didn't even meet my eyes. Because of the man in the wine cellar. I touched the handkerchief in my apron pocket. I'd wrapped it around my bleeding thumb and felt the silk whisper against my fingertips. Monogrammed. Vicky, who was he? And why had Marcus looked at him like that? Like fear and respect had fused into something sharper. The dining room began to empty around 10:30. I cleared tables, reset silverware, folded napkins into swans because Luminosa was that kind of place. My feet ached. My head throbbed. I wanted to go home, lock my door, and pretend this night had never happened. Lara. I turned. Marcus stood 5 feet away, hands in his pockets, shoulders rigid. Yes? Mr. Kane wants to see you. His office. My stomach dropped. His office? Upstairs. 3rd floor. You can't miss it. There's only one door. Marcus's smile was thin and cruel. Better not keep him waiting. He walked away before I could respond. I stood there, napkin swan clutched in my hands, pulse hammering in my throat. Why would he want to see me? The staircase was hidden behind a door marked private, narrow and carpeted in deep burgundy. I climbed slowly, each step heavier than the last. The 3rd floor was nothing like the restaurant below. And a warm amber lighting. No cream silk walls. Just a long hallway with dark hardwood floors and a single door at the end, black lacquered wood with a silver handle. I knocked. Twice. Soft. Come in. That voice again, low. Quiet, dangerous. I pushed the door open. The office was all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Rain had started falling, streaking the glass in silver lines. A massive desk dominated the center of the room, and behind it sat Kane, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He was reading something on a tablet. A crystal tumbler of amber liquid beside his hand. Close the door. I did. The click of the latch sounded too loud. He didn't look up. Sit. There were 2 leather chairs facing the desk. I chose the left one and sat, spine straight, hands folded in my lap. The handkerchief was still wrapped around my thumb, slightly pink now from dried blood. Kane set the tablet down and finally met my eyes. Up close, his face was harder than I'd realized. A scar cut through his left eyebrow, thin, pale, old. His eyes were the color of espresso, dark enough that the pupils almost disappeared. There was gray threading through his black hair at the temples. He looked like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. What's your full name? Lara Chen. How long have you worked here? 11 months. Is Marcus always like that? The question caught me off guard. I hesitated. I asked you a question, Lara. The way he said my name, careful, deliberate, like he was tasting it, made my skin prickle. Yes, I admitted quietly. He's always like that. To everyone? Or just you? Everyone? But especially. I stopped. Especially? Especially the women he thinks won't fight back. Something flickered across Kane's face. Not quite anger. Something colder. He picked up his glass, took a slow sip, then set it down with precise control. You know who I am? No, own this restaurant, along with 6 others in the city. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. Marcus works for me. The head chef works for me. Every server, bartender, and busboy works for me. Which means you work for me. My mouth went dry. I don't make a habit of interfering in staff disputes, Kane continued. Managers handle their teams how they see fit. But what I saw tonight, he paused. That wasn't management. That was something else. It was nothing, I said quickly. Really, just a misunderstanding. Don't lie to me. The words were soft but absolute, like a door slamming shut. I looked down at my hands, at the silk handkerchief wrapped around my thumb, at the monogram I'd been tracing in my pocket for the last 2 hours. He wanted to talk to me in the bathroom, I said, finally, to discuss my performance. In the bathroom, yes. Alone, yes. Silence stretched between us. Rain tapped against the windows. Somewhere below, I could hear the kitchen staff closing down for the night, the clang of pots, the rush of water, voices calling back and forth in Spanish and English. Marcus is fired, Kane said. My head snapped up. What? He'll receive 2 weeks severance and a reference letter. But as of tonight, he no longer works for me. You can't. I stumbled over my words. That's not necessary. Really, I can handle him. Can you? Kane's eyes pinned me in place. Because from where I stood, you were letting him drag you somewhere private, while 50 people pretended not to notice. Heat flooded my cheeks. Shame, sharp and bitter. I need this job, I whispered. I'm aware. Which is why you're being promoted. The room tilted. Promoted. Floor manager. You'll oversee front of house operations, manage the wait staff, handle customer relations. Your salary triples, effective immediately. He pulled a business card from his desk drawer and slid it across the polished wood. My number. You report directly to me until we find a general manager. I stared at the card. Black mat, silver lettering. Vincent Kane, proprietor. I don't understand. Which part? Any of it. Why would you fire Marcus because of me? Why would you promote me? You don't even know if I'm good at my job. Kane stood. He was taller than I'd thought, well over 6 feet, and when he moved around the desk toward me, every instinct I had screamed to run. He stopped 3 feet away. I know you stayed silent when you should have screamed, he said quietly. I know you apologized for bleeding. I know you've spent 11 months making yourself invisible because you think that's how you survive. His eyes held mine. And I know that tonight, when I gave you a choice, you told the truth. My breath caught. People don't do that around me, Elara. They lie. They flatter. They tell me what they think. I want to hear. He picked up his glass again, studying the amber liquid. You didn't. I should have kept my mouth shut, probably. The ghost of a smile touched his mouth there and gone in a heartbeat. Take the promotion. Or don't. But either way, Marcus is gone. He walked back to his desk, dismissing me without another word. I stood on, shaking legs, the business card clutched in my hand. Oddity the door. I paused. Mr. Kane? Yes? Thank you. He didn't respond. Just picked up his tablet and went back to reading, the rain streaking silver behind him. A king in his castle of glass and shadows. I left before I could say anything else stupid, before I could ask why his knuckles were scarred, or why he'd been in the wine cellar at midnight, or why a man who owned 6 restaurants would bother saving one invisible waitress. I didn't know yet that salvation always came with a price. Chapter 3. The silver lighter. Didn't sleep that night. I lay in my studio apartment, 4th floor, water-stained ceiling, radiator that clanged like a dying animal, and stared at Vincent Kane's business card, propped against my bedside lamp. Floor manager. The words felt foreign, impossible, like someone had handed me a crown and expected me to know how to wear it. I gave up on sleep and made tea. The kitchen was barely large enough to turn around in a hot plate, a mini fridge, a sink that dripped no matter how tight I turned the faucet. But it was mine. I'd signed the lease myself, paid the deposit with money I'd saved from 3 jobs. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to ask permission to exist. Now Vincent Kane was offering me enough money to move somewhere better. Why? The question circled my mind like a shark. Men like him didn't help girls like me out of kindness. There was always a reason, always a price. I picked up my phone, opened Google, and typed his name. The results loaded slowly. My cheap, internet stuttering, Vincent Kane. Businessman and restaurateur, Kane Holdings acquires waterfront property. Vincent Kane photographed at charity gala. Photos showed him in expensive suits. Always alone or with older men in similar clothing. No wife, no girlfriend. Just dark eyes and that dangerous stillness that made my pulse stutter even through a screen. I clicked on images and scrolled. Then I stopped. One photo. 6 months old, from a newspaper article. Police investigate shooting outside Kane-owned establishment. The article was brief. 2 men dead in the alley behind Sapphire, one of Kane's clubs. Gang-related, the police suspected. No arrests made. The restaurant stayed open. I read it 3 times. Then I closed my phone and watched the sky turn gray through my window. I arrived at Luminosa at noon. 3 hours before my shift. The restaurant was quiet in daylight, no amber chandeliers. No murmured conversations, just harsh fluorescent kitchen lights and the smell of cleaning solution. The day manager, Patricia, glanced up from the reservation book when I walked in. Lara, you're early. Is Mr. Kane here? Her eyebrows lifted. 3rd floor. But he doesn't like to be disturbed during. I was already walking toward the private staircase. My heart hammered with each step. This was insane. You didn't just walk into Vincent Kane's office uninvited. You didn't demand explanations from men who own buildings and had dead bodies in their alleys, but I knocked anyway. Come in. He sat at his desk in shirt sleeves. No tie. Reading glasses perched on his nose. Something about the glasses made him look almost human. Almost. He removed them slowly when he saw me. Lara, you're early. I need to understand something. He set the glasses down. Expression unreadable. Close the door. I did. But this time I didn't sit. Why did you really fire Marcus? I told you why. You told me part of it. But men like you don't fire managers over one incident. Not unless there's another reason. I forced myself to meet his eyes. So what is it? Why do you care what happens to me? Silence. Long enough that I almost apologized and left. Then Kane stood. He moved to the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city below. 3 years ago, he said quietly. I had a sister. Had. The past tense landed like a stone in water. Her name was Elena. She was 23. Worked as a hostess at one of my restaurants. He paused. She had a manager who liked to have conversations with female staff in private. She never told me. Not until it was too late. My throat tightened. What happened? One night he followed her home. She fought back. He didn't like that. Kane's voice remained steady, but his shoulders had gone rigid. She survived, barely. But she never came back to work. Never left her apartment again without someone with her. The light in her eyes. He stopped. It went out. I couldn't breathe. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. Be angry. He turned to face me. I didn't see it. I was too busy building an empire to notice that one of my managers was a predator. Too busy to see that my own sister was afraid to ask for help. That wasn't your fault, wasn't it? His smile was bitter. I owned the building. I signed his paychecks. I created the environment where he felt safe enough to hunt. He crossed the room to a small bar cart and poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a glass. Didn't offer me any. Just stood there, drink in hand, looking at me like I was an equation he couldn't solve. So when I saw Marcus dragging you down that hallway, he continued. I saw Elena. I saw every woman who ever stayed silent because she needed the job more than she needed justice. And I decided. He stopped. Took a breath. I decided it wouldn't happen again. Not in my restaurant. Not to someone I could protect. The weight of his words settled over me like snow. Your sister, I said softly. Is she? She moved to California. Married a teacher. They have a daughter. Something almost warm flickered in his eyes. She's better now. Mostly. Does she know you fired Marcus? No. And she won't. He finished his whiskey in one swallow. Elena doesn't like to be reminded of what I do. Or who I am. Who I am. The phrase hung in the air between us. I thought of the newspaper article. The dead men in the alley. The way Marcus had looked at him, not just with fear, but with the kind of terror reserved for people who could end you with a phone call. What do you do, Mr. Kane? I asked. Besides own restaurants? He studied me for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a lighter silver engraved, worn smooth with use. He didn't light anything. Just turned it over in his fingers, a nervous habit that seemed at odds with his controlled exterior. I protect things, he said finally. property, investments, people who work for me. His eyes met mine. And sometimes I protect things that aren't mine at all. Like me, like you. The air felt too thin, too charged. I shouldn't have accepted the promotion, I said. Why not? Because I don't know what you want from me. Kane crossed the distance between us in 3 strides. Stopped close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke. I want you to show up on time. I want you to manage my staff competently. I want you to stop apologizing for taking up space. He paused. That's all. That's all. I repeated, not believing it. That's all. He confirmed, but his eyes said something different. Something neither of us was ready to name. I took a step back, needing distance, needing air. I should go. My shift starts soon. Lara. I stopped at the door. You asked why I care what happens to you. The truth is simpler than you think. He pocketed the lighter. You reminded me that some things are worth protecting. Even if protection is all I know how to give. I left without responding, but as I descended the burgundy-carpeted stairs, I could feel the weight of his gaze following me like a hand between my shoulder blades, steady, inescapable, dangerous as a promise, and in my pocket. His business card felt like a lit match. Chapter 4. The closing whilst promotion became official on Tuesday. Vincent Mr. Kane. I still couldn't bring myself to use his first name. Called a staff meeting at PM. Everyone gathered in the dining room. Servers, bartenders, kitchen staff, even the sommelier, who usually acted like he was too important for such things. He stood at the front, hands clasped behind his back, and announced the changes in that quiet, dangerous voice that made everyone lean forward to listen. Marcus was gone. Personal reasons, he said. No one believed it, but no one asked questions either. I was floor manager now. Anyone who had a problem with that could speak to him directly. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Patricia started clapping, and others joined in, some enthusiastic, some uncertain, some looking at me like I'd just stolen something that didn't belong to me. Maybe I had. After the meeting, Vincent pulled me aside. My card, he said, pressing something into my palm. Not a business card this time, a key. Silver, small, attached to a black leather fob. Back office. You'll need it. Our fingers touched for half a second. His skin was warm, calloused. Thank you, I managed. He nodded once and left through the kitchen, coat over his arm, moving like a shadow through his own empire. I stood there with the key in my hand, feeling like I'd just accepted something far more binding than a promotion. The first 3 days went smoothly. I learned the scheduling system, mediated a dispute between 2 servers over tip splitting, and discovered that the head chef, Marco, was actually pleasant when Marcus wasn't around to undermine him. The staff watched me carefully, testing boundaries, seeing if I'd break under pressure. But I'd spent 11 months being invisible. I knew how this place worked. I knew which bartender watered down drinks when he thought no one was looking, which server always forgot to ring in desserts, which busboy would cover any shift if you asked nicely. I used that knowledge carefully. By Friday, even the skeptics were warming to me. Vincent appeared occasionally, always unexpected, always observing. He'd walk through the dining room during service, exchange quiet words with Marco in the kitchen, then disappear back upstairs to his office. But I could feel him watching, even when I couldn't see him. It should have been unsettling. Instead, it felt like standing in the path of something inevitable, a storm building on the horizon, beautiful and destructive in equal measure. The phone call came during the Saturday dinner rush. I was at the host stand, reviewing the reservation list, when my cell buzzed. Unknown number. I almost declined it. We were fully booked, 3 parties waiting, and one of the servers had called in sick, but something made me answer. Lara Chen? The voice was male, unfamiliar, with an accent I couldn't place. Yes? You should be more careful about the company you keep. My blood went cold. Who is this? A friend. Giving you advice. A pause. Vincent Kane is not what he seems. The restaurants are just the surface. Underneath. He laughed softly. Underneath is blood and money and things that would make you run if you had any sense. I'm hanging up. Your sister called you last week. From Paris. She's worried about you. I froze. No one knew about Naomi's call except me. How do you? We know everything, Lara. Where you live. Where you bank. That you're 3 weeks late on your electric bill. His voice dropped lower. We know you took Kane's promotion. That you carry his key. That you're in his office more than any employee should be. The dining room noise faded to white static. What do you want? Just making sure you understand what you've walked into. Kane has enemies, powerful ones, and now, another soft laugh. Now you're associated with him, which makes you interesting to us. Us. Tell Kane that Dimitri sends his regards. He'll understand. The line went dead. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, heart slamming against my ribs. Around me, the restaurant continued its carefully choreographed dance, servers gliding between tables, wine being poured, laughter rising and falling like music, but underneath, I could feel it now. The current I'd been ignoring, danger, real and close and circling. I made it through service on autopilot. At midnight. After the last customers left and the staff finished closing, I climbed the burgundy stairs to the third floor. Vincent's office light was still on. I knocked, waited, knocked again. Come in. He sat at his desk, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, that silver lighter in his hand. He looked tired, the kind of tired that lived in the bones. Lara, it's late. Someone called me tonight. I closed the door behind me. A man. He knew things about me. Private things. Vincent went very still. What did he say? He said I should be careful. That you have enemies. That I swallowed. That I'm interesting to them now because I work for you. What else? He told me to give you a message. From someone named Dimitri. The lighter stopped turning. Vincent's knuckles had gone white. What exactly did he say? Dimitri sends his regards. That's all. For 3 seconds, Vincent didn't move. Then he stood, pulled his phone from his pocket, and made a call. It's me, he said quietly. Dimitri made contact. Through the new floor manager. Yes, tonight? No, just a message. His eyes found mine. Increase security on all properties. And I need a detail on Lara Chen. Effective immediately. I don't care. Make it happen. He ended the call. Mr. Kane. Vincent, he interrupted. If someone's using you to get to me, you should at least use my first name. Vincent. The word felt strange on my tongue. Intimate. What's happening? He moved to the window, jaw tight, that lighter still clutched in his hand like a talisman. Dmitry Volkov runs the Russian operations in this city. Gambling, extortion, trafficking, anything that turns a profit and destroys lives. He turned to face me. 3 months ago, I refused to let him use my restaurants for money laundering. He didn't take it well. And now he's threatening me because I work for you. Now he's threatening you because he knows it will get my attention. Vincent's expression was carved from stone, which means he's planning something. And he wants me distracted. My legs felt weak. I sat down hard in one of the leather chairs. I should quit. That won't help. You're already on his radar. Then what do I do? Vincent crossed the room and crouched in front of me, bringing us eye to eye. This close, I could see the flecks of gold in his dark irises, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the scar through his eyebrow that I wanted to touch. You stay close to me, he said quietly. You let my people protect you, and you trust that I won't let anything happen to you. Why would you do that? You're not just anything. His voice was fierce. You're under my protection now, which means Dmitri made a mistake, because I don't let go of things I'm protecting. The intensity in his eyes was overwhelming, terrifying, magnetic. Vincent, say yes, Lara. Yes to what? To letting me keep you safe. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning I didn't fully understand, but I nodded anyway, because the walls were closing in. And Vincent Kane was the only thing standing between me and whatever darkness was coming, even if he was part of that darkness himself. Chapter 5. Forced proximity. Man arrived at my apartment at 6 a.m. I was still in my pajamas and oversized t-shirt and cotton shorts making coffee when someone knocked. 3 sharp raps that made my heart jump. I looked through the peephole and saw a stranger. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit and an earpiece. He held up an ID badge. Kane Security. I opened the door with the chain still attached. Miss Chen? I'm Davis. Mr. Kane sent me to escort you to work. I don't start until 3. He wants you at Luminosa by 7. He'll explain when you arrive. Davis's expression was professionally blank. I'll wait in the hallway while you get ready. He didn't phrase it as a request. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of a black SUV with tinted windows. Davis driving in silence while I clutched my coffee and tried to understand what my life had become. We didn't go to the restaurant. Instead, Davis pulled up to a high-rise in the financial district, all glass and steel. The kind of building where doormen wore white gloves and knew your name, Mr. Kane's residence, Davis said, opening my door. 23rd floor. He's expecting you. My stomach nodded. His residence? Yes, ma'am. The elevator was mirrored on all sides. I watched my reflection multiply into infinity, a girl in jeans and a sweater who looked too young, too uncertain, too out of place in this gleaming tower. The doors opened directly into Vincent's apartment, not a hallway, not a landing. The elevator opened into a living space so vast and pristine it looked like a photograph from an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Furniture in shades of gray and black leather, chrome, sharp edges. Modern art on the walls that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Everything perfectly arranged, nothing out of place. It looked like a museum. Or a mausoleum. You came. Vincent emerged from what I assumed was the kitchen, barefoot, wearing black slacks and a white dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar. His hair was damp, like he'd just showered. He looked different here, less controlled, more human. You didn't give me much choice, I said. I always give you a choice. He gestured to the living area. Coffee? I was just making some. I have coffee. I held up my travel mug like a shield. His mouth almost smiled. Come sit. We need to talk. I followed him to a kitchen that was all marble and stainless steel. He poured himself coffee from a French press, the expensive kind that required attention, and Karen leaned against the counter. You can't go back to your apartment, he said. What? Dimitri knows where you live, which means it's not safe. Vincent's tone was matter of fact, like he was discussing the weather. I've had your things packed. They'll be moved to a secure location this afternoon. Heat flooded my face. You can't just. You had no right. I had every right. You're a target now because of me. He set his cup down with careful precision. Which makes your safety my responsibility. I didn't agree to this. You agreed to let me protect you. This is what protection looks like. I wanted to throw my coffee at him. Wanted to scream. Instead, I set my mug on the counter with shaking hands and forced myself to breathe. Where am I supposed to live? Here. The word dropped like a stone. Absolutely not. Lara, no. I'm not moving in with you. I barely know you. This is insane. Vincent moved closer, into my space, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Listen to me carefully, he said quietly. Dmitry Volkov doesn't make empty threats. If he's watching you, it's because he plans to use you. And I will not. His jaw tightened. I will not let another woman get hurt because I failed to act. Elena. He was thinking about Elena. This isn't the same situation, I said softly, isn't it? His eyes searched mine. You're vulnerable because of me. You're in danger because you took a job I offered. How is that different? Because I'm not your sister. I'm not your responsibility. You became my responsibility the moment I stopped Marcus from dragging you into that bathroom. His voice dropped lower. Whether you like it or not, the air between us felt electric, charged with something I couldn't name. How long? I asked finally. Until Dimitri makes his move, or until I make mine. Vincent stepped back, giving me space to breathe. Could be days, could be weeks, and I'm supposed to just live here with you? I have a guest room, en suite bathroom, complete privacy. He picked up his coffee again. I'm rarely here anyway. I sleep at the office most nights. You'll have the place to yourself. This is crazy. Yes, he agreed. But it's also the only option that keeps you alive. The guest room was at the far end of the apartment, past a hallway lined with black and white photographs of cities I'd never visited. It was bigger than my entire studio. King bed with white linens, a sitting area with a leather chair and reading lamp, windows overlooking the river. The bathroom had heated floors and a rainfall shower that could fit 3 people. My belongings arrived at noon to duffel bags and 3 cardboard boxes. Everything I owned, packed by strangers, reduced to something that could fit in a closet. I unpacked mechanically, trying not to think about the fact that I was living in Vincent Kane's apartment, that he was down the hall, that his shirts probably hung in a closet just like this one, and his bed looked similar to mine. And somewhere in this pristine tower was evidence of the man beneath the armor. At p.m. There was a knock on my door. Come in. Vincent stood in the doorway. Jacket on now, keys in hand. I have a meeting. Davis will drive you to Luminosa at 2:30. There will always be someone with you. Davis, Marcus, or Thompson. They're good men. Trust them. Okay. He started to leave, then paused. The kitchen is fully stocked. Help yourself to anything. There's a spare key on the entry table. Use it freely. This is your home now, Alara, not a prison. It doesn't feel like either, I admitted. It feels like I'm living in a photograph. Something shifted in his expression. Elena used to say the same thing, that I lived in a museum instead of an apartment. Why do you? He considered the question. Because it's easier to control things when they don't matter. When they're just objects arranged in pleasing ways. His eyes met mine. But lately I'm finding that harder to remember. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the guest room with my unpacked boxes and the strange, terrifying realization that I wanted him to stay. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered the apartment at midnight, barefoot on cold marble floors. Vincent wasn't home, still at the office, or the restaurant, or wherever men like him went when darkness fell. I found myself in his study. It was the only room that felt lived in. Books lined the walls, crime fiction, philosophy, Russian literature. A desk covered in papers. And on a side table, a photograph in a silver frame, a girl with dark hair and Vincent's eyes, laughing at something off camera. Elena, I assumed. Before, I picked up the frame, studying her face. Can't sleep? I spun around. Vincent stood in the doorway, tie gone, shirt wrinkled, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, it's fine. He crossed to the bar cart and poured whiskey. She was 19 in that photo. Before everything changed, she looks happy. She was. He downed the whiskey in one swallow. I used to be able to make her laugh. Now I just make her nervous. That's not your fault, isn't it? He poured another glass. Everything I touch turns dark eventually. It's who I am. I set the photograph down and moved closer to him. Then why let me stay here? If everything you touch turns dark? Vincent looked at me for a long moment. Then he reached out and touched my face, just his fingertips against my cheek, feather light, there and gone, because maybe, he said quietly, I'm hoping you'll be the exception. Chapter 6. The Crack in the Armor. 3 days passed in Vincent's apartment, and I learned the rhythm of his absence. He left before dawn, returned after midnight. Sometimes I'd hear him moving through the kitchen at 2 a.m. The quiet clink of glass, water running, footsteps on marble. Then silence again. We were two ghosts haunting the same space, carefully avoiding collision. Davis drove me to Luminosa each afternoon. I managed the dinner service, handled customer complaints, mediated staff disputes. The work was consuming, exhausting, exactly what I needed to stop thinking about the man whose apartment I was living in. But at night, alone in that pristine guest room, I thought about nothing else. The way he'd touched my face. Maybe you'll be the exception. What did that even mean? On Thursday evening, Vincent appeared at the restaurant during service. He moved through the dining room like he owned it, which he did, nodding to regulars, exchanging quiet words with Patricia at the host stand. Then his eyes found me across the room, and something in my chest tightened. He gestured toward his office. Come up when you can. I waited until the rush subsided, then climbed the burgundy stairs. He stood at the windows, hands in his pockets, watching rain streak the glass. The silver lighter sat on his desk, catching lamplight. You wanted to see me? How are you settling in? He didn't turn around. Fine. The apartment is. It's very nice. That's not what I asked. I moved closer. I feel like I'm living in a hotel. Everything's too perfect. Too impersonal. You could change that. Add things. Make it yours. It's not mine. It's yours. I paused. I'm just borrowing space. He finally turned to face me. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, jaw tight with tension. Any word from Dmitri? I asked. Nothing. Which worries me more than threats would. Vincent moved to his desk, picked up the lighter, turned it over in his fingers. Silence means planning. And Dmitri's plans are never simple. How long have you been at war with him? We're not at war. War would be honest. This is. He searched for the word. This is a chess game where the board keeps changing and the rules are written in blood. The bitterness in his voice startled me. Do you ever get tired of it? I asked softly. All of this? He looked at me for a long moment. Every day. The admission hung between us, raw and unexpected. Then why not stop? Walk away? Because men like me don't walk away. We just dig deeper until we can't see daylight anymore. He set the lighter down. And because the people I protect, my employees, my sister, you, they need someone willing to live in the dark. I never asked you to protect me. I know. His eyes held mine. You never ask for anything. That's part of the problem. What problem? He moved around the desk, closing the distance between us. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The problem where I can't stop thinking about you. Where I come home at AM and stand outside your door like a fucking stalker, making sure you're safe. Where I rearrange my entire security protocol because the thought of something happening to you makes me. He stopped. Jaw clenched. Makes me forget who I'm supposed to be. My breath caught. Vincent, I shouldn't have said that. Why did you? Because you asked an honest question. And I'm tired of lying to you. He reached up, almost touched my face, then let his hand drop. You should go back to work. I have calls to make. But I didn't move. Instead, I did something reckless. Something I'd been thinking about for 3 days in that perfect, empty apartment. I stepped closer and placed my hand over his heart. His breath stopped. I could feel his pulse hammering beneath my palm. Fast, erratic human, you're not what I expected. I said quietly. What did you expect? A monster. Someone cold and untouchable. My fingers curled into his shirt. But you're not, are you? You just pretend to be. Lara. My name was a warning. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Like I'm something I'm not. How am I looking at you? Like I'm worth saving. Like I'm more than what I do. I met his eyes. Maybe you are. He made a sound, half laugh, half groan, and then his hand was in my hair, tilting my face up, and his mouth was on mine. The kiss was nothing like I expected. Not gentle. Not careful. It was desperate and fierce and tasted like whiskey and regret. His other hand found my waist, pulling me against him, and I went willingly, rising on my toes, hands fisting in his shirt. He kissed like a man drowning. Like I was air, and he'd been underwater too long. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Fuck, he whispered. Lara, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I kissed him again. Cut off the apology with my mouth on his, showing him what words couldn't say. I want this. I want you. Even knowing what you are. He groaned against my lips and lifted me onto his desk. Papers scattered. The lighter clattered to the floor. His hands framed my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. And he kissed me slower this time, deeper, like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth, like he was trying to find something he'd lost. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. Our breathing filled the silence. This is a mistake, he said. I know. You should run from me. I know that too. Then why are you still here? I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Because for 3 days I've been living in your apartment, sleeping in your guest room, and all I can think about is how much I want to know the parts of you that you keep hidden. The parts that aren't the empire, or the control, or the careful distance. His thumb traced my lower lip. Those parts are dangerous, Lara. I don't care. You should, maybe. I caught his hand, held it against my face. But I'm tired of being careful. Tired of being invisible. Tired of apologizing for existing. I looked at him steadily. You made me feel visible, for better or worse. And I can't unfeel that. Something broke in his expression. Some final wall crumbling. Christ, he breathed. You're going to ruin me. Good, I whispered. Then we'll be even. He kissed me again. Softer this time. Almost reverent. And for the first time since I'd met Vincent Kane, I saw something in his eyes besides darkness. I saw hope. Later, after I'd returned to the floor and finished service. After Davis drove me back to the apartment and I stood under the rainfall shower trying to wash away the feel of Vincent's hands on my skin, I couldn't. The memory clung to me like smoke. T.M. I heard him come home. Heard him pause outside my door, just like he'd admitted. I held my breath waiting, but he didn't knock. Didn't come in, just stood there in the darkness, as close as he could allow himself to be. And I understood then what he'd been trying to tell me. Vincent Kane knew how to protect people, but he'd forgotten how to let himself be close to them, and somehow, without meaning to, I'd become the thing he wanted most and feared in equal measure. Chapter 7. The breaking point photograph arrived on Friday morning. I was having coffee in Vincent's kitchen, our kitchen. I'd started thinking, though I hated myself for it, when Davis knocked and entered with a manila envelope. This was left at the front desk. Addressed to you. No return address. No postage. Just my name in block letters. Davis's expression was carefully neutral, but his hand moved to his hip, where I knew he kept a gun. Should I open it? I asked. Let me check first. He took the envelope to the window, held it up to the light, felt the edges, finally nodded. Seems safe, but careful. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single photograph. 8 by 10, glossy, Professional quality. It showed me and Vincent on his office desk, his hands in my hair, my legs wrapped around his waist. The kiss that had changed everything. Someone had been watching. Someone had been there, written across the bottom in red ink, beautiful. Dimitri would love to meet her. The coffee cup slipped from my fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Vincent arrived 20 minutes later, still in yesterday's clothes, hair disheveled. He must have driven straight from wherever he'd spent the night. He took one look at the photograph and went absolutely still, the kind of still that preceded violence. Davis, he said quietly, get Thompson and Marcus. I want every camera in and around that building pulled. I want to know who delivered this, when and where they went after. Yes, sir. Davis left. Vincent picked up the photograph with careful precision, like it might explode. I'm sorry, I whispered. His head snapped up. Why are you apologizing? Because this happened because of me. Because you? He crossed the room into strides and gripped my shoulders. Not hard, firm enough to make me focus. Lara, listen to me. This happened because Dimitri is a fucking psychopath who gets off on violating people's privacy. Because he has resources and connections and no conscience. Not because you kissed me. But if you hadn't, he would have found another way to get to me. That's what he does. Vincent's jaw was tight enough to crack stone. He finds the thing you care about most and threatens it. Always. The thing you care about most. The words settled in my chest like stones. I should leave, I said. Go somewhere else. Get out of the city. No, Vincent, no. His grip tightened slightly. Running won't help. He already has people watching you, following you. The only reason you're safe right now is because you're with me. But the photograph was taken with a telephoto lens from the building across the street. High-powered, expensive equipment. Professional surveillance. He released me and ran a hand through his hair. Which means this isn't just Dimitri playing games. This is reconnaissance. He's building a file. My stomach turned over. For what? Vincent's expression went dark. For leverage. Or for sale. There are people who would pay well for compromising photos of me. Rivals, prosecutors, journalists. He paused. Or he's planning something worse, and he wants me distracted worrying about you. Then I'm exactly what you said. A liability. You're not. He stopped himself. Took a breath. Come with me. There's something you need to see. He led me to his study and unlocked a drawer in his desk. Pulled out a thick folder. Inside were documents. Police reports. Photographs of crime scenes, blood splatter, body outlines, evidence markers, and faces. So many faces. These are Dimitri's victims over the past 5 years, Vincent said quietly. People who got in his way. People who refused to cooperate. People who were unlucky enough to witness something they shouldn't have. I flipped through the pages, nausea rising. A restaurant owner who'd refused protection, money burned alive in his establishment. A prosecutor who'd gotten too close to an indictment, car accident, but the brake lines had been cut. A cocktail waitress who'd overheard the wrong conversation found in the river, weighted down. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand what we're dealing with, who we're dealing with. Vincent's voice was steady, but his eyes were haunted. Dimitri doesn't make threats. He makes examples. And if he's decided you're worth his attention, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. I closed the folder with shaking hands. Then what do? We wait for him to make his move. And when he does, we end this. End it how? Vincent's expression went cold, remote, the mask sliding back into place, however necessary. That afternoon, everything fell apart. I was at Luminosa, trying to lose myself in work, when Patricia rushed over, face pale. Lara, the police are here. They're asking for you. My heart stopped. What? To detectives. They won't tell me what it's about. They're waiting in the private dining room. I found Vincent in his office within seconds. The police are here. For me. He was on his feet immediately. Don't say anything without a lawyer present. Not a word. Do you understand? Vincent. What's happening? I don't know yet. But Dimitri has connections in the department. This could be part of his play. He grabbed his jacket. I'm coming with you. The detectives were exactly what I expected. Rumpled suits, tired eyes, notebooks in hand. The older one, Detective Morrison, gestured to a chair. Miss Chen, please, sit. Vincent stood behind me, a hand on my shoulder. Protective, possessive. Miss Chen, Morrison continued. How long have you known Vincent Kane? A few weeks. Why? And your relationship is professional. I work for him. The younger detective, Hayes, pulled out a photograph, slid it across the table. It was the same photograph from this morning. Me and Vincent. The kiss. This seems more than professional. My face burned. That's private. Private things become public when they're connected to ongoing investigations. Morrison leaned forward. Miss Chen, we have reason to believe Vincent Kane is involved in organized crime, money laundering, racketeering, possibly worse. That's bullshit, Vincent said quietly. And you know it, Morrison. You've been trying to build a case against me for 3 years, and you have nothing. We have enough to ask questions. Hayes's eyes were cold. Miss Chen, are you aware that Mr. Kane has associations with known criminals? That several of his business partners have ties to the Russian mafia? My voice caught. Has he ever asked you to carry packages? Deliver messages? Transport anything unusual? No, never. Has he threatened you? Coerced you in any way? No, then why are you living in his apartment? The question landed like a punch. Vincent's hand tightened on my shoulder. This interview is over. Miss Chen has answered your questions. Unless you're charging her with something, we're leaving. Morrison stood. We're not charging her yet, but Miss Chen, you should think carefully about the company you keep. Men like Vincent Kane don't protect people. They use them. And when they're done, he gestured to the photograph. When they're done, you become collateral damage. In the car, Vincent was silent. Davis drove us back to the apartment through rush hour traffic. Rain had started again, turning the city into a blur of lights and shadows. They're right, I said finally. About what? About you using me. About me being collateral damage. I turned to face him. That's what this is, isn't it? Dimitri's not just threatening me to get to you. He's using me to destroy your reputation. To make you look weak. To show everyone that Vincent Kane's word doesn't mean anything because he can't even protect his own. I stopped. Whatever I am to you. Vincent stared straight ahead. You're not collateral damage. Then what am I? The silence stretched so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then quietly, you're the first person in 10 years who made me want to be something other than what I am. The honesty in his voice broke something inside me. Vincent. But Morrison was right about one thing. Men like me don't get happy endings. We get revenge and power and empire. Not. He finally looked at me. Not you. You don't get to decide that. Yes, he said softly. I do. Because I won't let you become another Elena. Another person destroyed by proximity to me. When we reached the apartment, he didn't follow me inside. I'll be at the office, he told Davis. Don't leave her alone. Not for a second. Then he was gone, disappearing into the rain. And I understood. The kiss had been a crack in his armor. The photograph had made it a fracture. And now Vincent Kane was doing what he did best, pushing away the one thing that made him vulnerable. Me. Chapter 8. The violence and the vulnerability didn't come home that night, or the next. I existed in his apartment like a prisoner in a gilded cage. Davis stationed outside my door. Thompson in the lobby. Marcus doing perimeter checks every 2 hours. I went to Luminosa for my shifts and pretended everything was normal. Smiled at customers. Managed the staff. Acted like my world wasn't crumbling. But everyone could see it. The shadows under my eyes. The way I flinched at sudden sounds. Patricia asked if I was okay twice before I snapped at her to mind her own business. Vincent's office remained dark. On Sunday night, I broke. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor without permission, without Davis, without thinking. The door was locked, but I had the key. He'd given me weeks ago, back when he'd looked at me like I mattered. The office was empty, cold. That silver lighter sat on his desk, next to an empty whiskey glass and a stack of files marked Volkov in red ink. I opened the top file. More photographs. Not of me this time. Of Vincent. Entering buildings I didn't recognize. Shaking hands with men whose faces had been circled in red marker. Meeting with people in parking garages and darkened doorways. Surveillance. Just like the photograph of us, Dimitri had been watching Vincent for months. Maybe years. I was still reading when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Vincent appeared in the doorway and froze. We stared at each other across the distance. He looked terrible and shaven, exhausted, his shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. But his eyes were sharp, alert. You shouldn't be here, he said. Neither should you. You haven't been home in 3 days. I've been working. You've been avoiding me. I gestured to the files. Because of this. Because Dimitri's watching you, and now the police are circling, and I'm just another problem you need to solve. That's not, he stopped. Jaw tight. It's not safe for you to be around me right now. It hasn't been safe since the moment you stopped Marcus from dragging me into that bathroom. Since the moment you decided I was worth protecting. I moved around the desk toward him. But you did it anyway. So don't tell me now that distance will keep me safe. It's too late for that. Lara, you kissed me. You told me I might be the exception. You made me, my voice cracked. You made me believe that maybe I wasn't invisible anymore. That maybe I mattered to someone. And now you're just going to disappear because things got complicated? Things didn't get complicated. They got dangerous. Vincent's control was fracturing. I could see it in the way his hands clenched. Dimitri isn't playing anymore. He's escalating. The photograph was just the opening move. Then let me help. Help? He laughed bitterly. How can you help? By staying locked in my apartment? By having bodyguards follow you everywhere? By watching your life disappear because I was too selfish to stay away from you? You're not selfish. You're scared. The words hung between us like a challenge. I'm not scared, he said quietly. Yes, you are. You're terrified that if you let yourself care about me, I'll end up like Elena. So you're pushing me away before Dimitri can use me against you. I stepped closer. But it's too late, Vincent. He's already using me. The only question is whether you're going to face this with me or run from it. Something in his expression cracked. I don't know how to do this. How to protect you and want you and not destroy you in the process. Then stop trying to do it alone. I closed the distance between us and took his face in my hands. Made him look at me. I'm not breakable, I said softly. I'm not Elena, and I'm not going to shatter just because things are hard. You don't know what he's capable of, then show me. Stop hiding. Stop protecting me from the truth and just I searched his eyes. Just let me in. For a moment, I thought he'd pull away, rebuild the walls, disappear again. Then his phone rang. He pulled it from his pocket, glanced at the screen, and his entire body went rigid. What is it? He answered without speaking, listened. His face went absolutely white. When? A pause. Where is she now? Another pause. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at me with eyes full of something I'd never seen before. Terror. Elena's been taken, he said. From her home in California. 3 hours ago. The floor tilted beneath my feet. What? Dimitri's men. They broke in while her husband was at work. Took her from her daughter's playroom. Vincent's voice was mechanical, empty. They left a note. It says if I want her back alive, I need to bring you to the warehouse district. Pier 47, midnight tonight, bring you. The words settled like ice in my stomach. He wants to trade. I whispered, yes, your sister for me. Yes, I pulled back, wrapped my arms around myself. Then we do it. We make the trade. No, the word was absolute. Vincent, she's your sister. I know who she is. His voice cracked. And I know what Dimitri will do to you if I hand you over. I've seen what he does to women he wants to break. But if I don't, Elena dies. I know. He moved to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. So I have 3 hours to figure out how to save you both. There is no both, not really. I moved behind him, touched his shoulder. You know that. He's giving you an impossible choice because that's what destroys people like you. Not the violence. The choice. Vincent turned, caught my hand, pressed it against his chest, where his heart was racing. I can't lose you, he said hoarsely. Either of you. But especially he stopped. Swallowed hard. Especially you. Why? Because Elena survived what happened to her. She's strong. She built a life. His eyes met mine. But you, if something happened to you because of me, I wouldn't survive it. I know that now. I'd burn the entire city down, and then, I'd burn myself with it. The rawness in his voice undid me. I rose on my toes and kissed him, soft, slow, trying to memorize the taste of him. Then we don't let it come to that. I whispered against his mouth. We find another way. There's no other way. There's always another way. I pulled back. You just have to be willing to do what Dimitri doesn't expect. Vincent studied my face. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said carefully, that men like Dimitri make one critical mistake. They assume everyone values the same things they do. Power, control, fear. And maybe the way to beat him is to give him exactly what he wants. I met his eyes steadily. Me, absolutely not. Vincent, I said. No, I won't. His phone rang again. Different ringtone. He answered. What? I watched his expression change. Watched the color drain from his face. How many? A pause. Jesus Christ. Yes. Lock it down. Everyone out. Now. He lowered the phone. What happened? Luminosa, he said quietly. Someone set fire to the wine cellar. The whole building's burning. Chapter 9. Surrender or separation. The sky above Luminosa glowed orange. We arrived to find fire trucks blocking the street, water cannons spraying arcs of silver into the flames. The restaurant's elegant facade was blackened, windows shattered, smoke pouring from every opening like the building was exhaling its death. Vincent stood on the sidewalk, perfectly still, watching his empire burn. Everyone got out, Davis said quietly. Marco made sure. No casualties. The building? Total loss. Fire marshal says it started in the wine cellar. Accelerant used. Definitely arson. Vincent's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, that terrible stillness surrounding him like armor. I moved closer. Vincent, this is the message, he said. Before the trade, he's showing me what he can take, what he can destroy. His eyes never left the flames. The restaurant, Elena, you, everything I've tried to protect. He can reach it all. Patricia appeared from behind a fire truck, soot-streaked and crying. Mr. Kane, I'm so sorry. I tried to. The alarms were disabled, and by the time we smelled the smoke, it's not your fault. Vincent's voice was gentle, detached. Go home, Patricia. I'll contact everyone about severance and references tomorrow. She nodded and walked away, shoulders shaking. Around us, the staff gathered in small clusters. Servers I'd worked with, bartenders, line cooks. Marco stood apart, arms crossed, staring at the ruin of his kitchen. 10 years of Vincent's work. Gone in an hour. We need to move, Thompson said. This location isn't secure. And it's almost 11. 1 hour until midnight. Until the trade. Vincent finally turned away from the fire. His expression was empty, hollowed out. Take Lara back to the apartment. Lock it down. I'm going to Pier 47. Like hell you are, I said. Lara, you're not going alone. That's what he wants, you isolated, desperate, making mistakes. I grabbed his arm. We go together. Or we don't go at all. If I bring you, there's no guarantee. There are no guarantees anyway. I held his gaze. But at least this way, we control the narrative. We go in with a plan instead of you playing the tragic hero and getting yourself killed. Vincent looked at Davis. Thompson, Marcus, give us a minute. They moved away. We stood in the shadow of a fire truck, the heat from Luminosa washing over us in waves. What plan? Vincent asked quietly. You have people, resources, connections? I kept my voice steady. Dimitri expects you to come alone, broken, ready to negotiate. So we don't give him that. We give him something else. What? A reason to think he's already won. Understanding flickered in his eyes. You want to let him take you? Not exactly. I want him to think he's taking me. While your people move into position, I step closer. He's arrogant, Vincent. He's been playing this game so long, he thinks he's the only one who knows the rules. So we change them. It's too dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. At least this way we're acting instead of reacting. I touched his face. Trust me. He caught my hand, held it against his cheek. If something goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, his voice roughened. Lara, you need to know that these past weeks, having you in my life, in my space, it's been. He stopped. Searched for words. It's been the first time in 10 years I've felt like something other than a weapon. Like maybe I could be a person again. My throat tightened. Vincent let me finish. He turned his head, pressed a kiss to my palm. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people. I've built my entire life on violence and control. And I'm not asking for forgiveness or redemption, because I don't deserve either. His eyes met mine. But I want you to know that loving you, even though I shouldn't, even though it's the most selfish thing I've ever done, it's the only good choice I've made in a decade. Loving you. The words hung in the air between us. Impossible and true. You love me, I whispered, terrifyingly, completely. He pulled me closer. Which is why I can't let you do this. You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing. I rose on my toes, kissed him soft and deep. And I love you too. Even though you're stubborn and overprotective and possibly a criminal. Definitely a criminal. That too. I smiled against his mouth. So trust me, trust us. And let's end this. Pier 47 was a skeleton of rusted metal and rotting wood jutting into the black water. We arrived at 11:45. 2 cars, Vincent and me in the first with Davis driving. Thompson and Marcus in the second, with 3 other men I didn't recognize. The plan was simple. Vincent would walk in with me, make initial contact. While Dimitri was focused on us, his people would move into positions surrounding the warehouse, cutting off escape routes, ready to move on Vincent's signal. It required perfect timing, perfect execution, and trust that Dimitri wouldn't just shoot us both the moment we appeared. Comes check, Vincent said into his phone. Static. Then, north side clear. 2 guards visible. South side. 3 hostiles. 1 vehicle. East perimeter secure. Vincent pocketed the phone and looked at me. Last chance to change your mind. Not a chance. He pulled something from his jacket, a small device. Black, no bigger than a button. Tracker. In case we get separated. He fastened it inside my bra strap. Fingers gentle. I'll always be able to find you. Romantic. Practical. But his eyes were soft. We got out of the car. The wind off the water was cold, sharp with salt and decay. Ahead, the warehouse loomed, a massive structure of corrugated metal and broken windows. A single light burned inside. Vincent took my hand, squeezed once. Then we walked toward the entrance together. The door stood open. Inside, shipping crates created a maze of shadows. Our footsteps echoed on concrete. Vincent Kane. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Russian accent, cultured, amused, punctual. I appreciate that. Lights blazed on, blinding. When my vision cleared, I saw him. Dmitry Volkov stood 20 feet away, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary, flanked by 4 men with guns, and behind him, tied to a chair, bruised but alive, Elena. Vincent's entire body went rigid beside me. You brought the girl, Dmitry said, smiling. Good. That makes this simpler. He gestured, and 2 of his men moved forward. The trade is simple. She stays. Elena goes. You leave. Everyone lives. Not quite everyone, Vincent said quietly. You forgot to mention the part where you kill me anyway. Dmitry laughed. I'm insulted. Why would I kill you? You're far more useful alive. Broken, humiliated, but alive. He looked at me. And Miss Chen here will ensure you stay cooperative. For a while at least. Vincent's hand tightened on mine. The signal. Here's my counteroffer, he said. You let both of them go, and you deal with me. Why would I do that? Because, Vincent said, and smiled, cold, dangerous. Every inch the man I'd first seen in that hallway. You're surrounded. The lights went out, gunfire erupted in the darkness, and Vincent pulled me down behind a crate as chaos exploded around us. Stay down, he commanded. No matter what you hear, stay down. Then he was gone, swallowed by shadows and violence, and I crouched alone in the dark, listening to the sound of Vincent Kane going to war. Chapter 10. Climax and aftermath. The gunfire lasted 90 seconds. I counted each one, crouched behind the crate, hands pressed over my ears, trying to distinguish sounds in the chaos. Shouts in Russian and English. The metallic crack of bullets hitting steel. Glass shattering. Someone screaming. Then silence. Terrible, ringing silence. Hey Lara. Vincent's voice, rough. You can come out. I stood on shaking legs. Emergency lights had kicked on, bathing everything in red. Bodies on the ground, Dimitri's men unconscious or dead. I couldn't tell. Vincent's team moving through the space, securing weapons, zip-tying hands, and Vincent, standing over Dmitry Volkov. The Russian was on his knees, blood streaming from his nose, hands behind his head. But he was smiling. You think this ends anything? Dmitry laughed. I have people, resources. I'll be out by morning. No, Vincent said quietly. You won't. He pulled something from his jacket, a USB drive, tossed it to Thompson. Everything, Vincent said. Bank accounts, shell companies, every dirty deal and payoff from the past 10 years. It's all there. And copies are already on their way to the FBI, the state attorney, and 3 different newspapers. Dimitri's smile faltered. You wanted to destroy me? Vincent crouched down. I level with him. You wanted to take everything I built? Fine, but I don't rebuild. I salt the earth. And when I'm done with you, there won't be enough left for the rats to eat. You're a dead man, Dmitry spat. My people will. Your people are currently being arrested. 47 locations. Simultaneous raids. All based on information I've been gathering for 3 years. Vincent's voice was ice. You made a mistake, Dimitri. You thought taking Elena would break me. You thought threatening Lara would make me desperate. But all you did was remind me what I'm capable of when someone threatens what's mine. He stood and gestured to Thompson. Get him out of here. They dragged Dimitri away, still cursing in Russian. Vincent turned to Elena. She sat in the chair, freed now, but shaking. Davis had given her his jacket. When Vincent approached, she flinched. Lena, he said softly. It's over. You're safe. Safe. She laughed bitterly. I had 3 men in my house, Vincent. They put a gun to my daughter's head while I watched. How is that safe? I'm sorry, you're always sorry. And it's never enough. Elena stood on unsteady legs. I moved across the country. I changed my life. I tried so hard to get away from your world. And it still found me. It still, her voice broke. My daughter was crying for me and I couldn't even hold her because they had guns and I know. Vincent's expression was raw. Lena, I know. And I swear to you, on everything I have, this will never happen again. How can you promise that? Because I'm done. No more restaurants. No more empire. I'm liquidating everything, giving the money to you, to Sarah, to everyone who's ever been hurt because of me. And then I'm disappearing. The words hit me like a fist. Elena stared at her brother. What? You were right. All these years, you were right. Everything I touch turns dark. Everyone I try to protect ends up in danger. He glanced at me briefly. So I'm removing myself from the equation. You'll be safe. She'll be safe. Everyone will be. Stop. My voice cut through. Just stop. I crossed the warehouse, past the bodies and the blood and the broken glass, until I stood in front of Vincent. You're not disappearing. You're not running. And you're sure as hell not making decisions for me. Lara, no. You don't get to do this. You don't get to decide you're too dangerous to be around and just vanish like some tragic hero. I poked his chest. You said you loved me. That means you fight, not for control or power or your empire for us. For the possibility that maybe, just maybe, we can build something that isn't soaked in blood. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. With me. I softened my voice. You spent 10 years trying to protect people by being a weapon. Maybe it's time to try protecting them by being human instead. Vincent looked at his sister. Lena, Elena was crying now, silent tears tracking through the slit on her face. I don't want you to disappear. I want you to be my brother again. The one who taught me to ride a bike and scared away my first boyfriend and cried at our mother's funeral. She took a shaky breath. But I can't keep living in fear of your world. So if you're serious, if you're really going to change, then prove it. Not with money or disappearing acts. With time and distance and actual, real change, I will, Vincent said hoarsely. I promise. Whatever it takes. Elena nodded. Then, surprising everyone, she crossed the space and hugged him. Vincent froze for half a second before his arms came around her, careful, like she might break. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. For all of it. For everything. I know, she whispered back. Now do better. 3 weeks later, I stood in Vincent's apartment, my apartment now, officially, the deed transferred to my name, and looked out at the city. Luminosa was gone, reduced to insurance claims and memories. Vincent had sold his other properties, paid out generous severance packages, and given substantial donations to organizations that helped victims of organized crime. Dmitry Volkov was in federal custody, awaiting trial. His empire had crumbled in 72 hours. The newspapers called it the biggest organized crime bust in a decade. Vincent called it closing a chapter. He came up behind me now, arms sliding around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. Second thoughts? He asked. About you? Never. I leaned back against him. About this apartment? It still feels like a museum. Then let's change it. Make it ours. He kissed my neck. Add things. Mess it up. Live in it instead of around it. I turned in his arms. He'd shaved, cut his hair, started seeing a therapist twice a week. Small changes, but real ones. What are you going to do now? I asked. Now that you're not a criminal mastermind anymore? I was thinking. He paused. Maybe culinary school. Learn to actually cook instead of just owning restaurants. I laughed. Vincent Kane, student chef. Or I could write a cookbook. Blood and basil. Recipes from a reformed mobster. That's terrible. You love it. I love you. I touched his face. Even though you're ridiculous, ridiculously in love with you. He kissed me, soft and slow. Thank you. For what? For not running. For staying. For believing I could be something other than what I was. You were always more than that, I said quietly. You just needed someone to see it. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, for the first time in 10 years, Vincent Kane smiled like he meant it, and I understood then what we'd built from the ashes of his empire and my invisibility. Not a fairy tale, not a perfect ending, but something real. Something worth fighting for, something like hope. Epilogue 6 months later, Alina's daughter's birthday party was in a park in California. Under oak trees strung with lights, Vincent stood awkwardly in the corner, holding a plate of cake, watching children run and shriek. He looked completely out of place in jeans and a t-shirt, but he was trying. Uncle Vince. Sarah, 4 years old, fearless, launched herself at his legs. He caught her automatically, lifting her up. Hey, monster. Having fun? Look what an Lara gave me. She held up a stuffed dragon. His name is Bruce, and he breathes fire, but only at bad guys. That's perfect, Vincent said. Seriously, every girl needs a dragon. Elena appeared beside me, watching them. He's different with her now. With both of you. He's trying. I can see that. She squeezed my hand. Thank you. For giving him a reason to try. I watched Vincent spin Sarah in a circle, her laughter bright as bells, and felt something settle in my chest. Peace maybe. Or possibility. He gave me one too, I said softly. Later, driving back to the hotel, Vincent reached across the console and took my hand. You okay? More than okay. I laced our fingers together. You? Getting there. He glanced at me. I've been thinking. Dangerous. About opening a small place. Nothing fancy. Just a neighborhood restaurant. Good food. Fair wages. No empire. He paused. With you. As partners. My heart stuttered. Vincent, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Building something together. Something clean. Something ours. I looked at this man, this dangerous, broken, beautiful man who'd chosen to change everything for a chance at something real. Yes, I said. Yes. Yes to the restaurant. Yes. To partnership. Yes. To building something together. I smiled. Yes. To all of it. Vincent pulled over, right there on the highway, and kissed me like I was air and he'd been drowning. I love you, he said, against my mouth. I love you too. Even though you're still kind of a criminal. Reformed criminal. That too. We drove into the sunset, literally, dramatically. Like the ending of a movie. But this wasn't an ending. It was the start of something neither of us had believed possible. A beginning. A second chance. A life built on choice instead of necessity. Love instead of fear. And that made all the difference.